No, this isn't going to turn into a space channel, but I just had to talk about the most recent developments with the Emirates Mars Mission, which is the United Arab Emirates' first mission to Mars. At the time of this upload, this probe named Amal in Arabic, or Hope, is now reaching the most exciting phase since its launch back in July 2020 from the Tanegashima Island in Japan. After traveling almost 500 million miles towards the Red Planet at an insane speed of over 121,000 kilometers per hour, the probe is now in the Martian orbit. This is a major accomplishment for this region. Being someone that was born and lived in Lebanon, which is a country that is part of the Middle East, a region that's constantly plagued with turmoil, unrest, instability, and poverty, I must say that this is a major accomplishment for us all and will definitely set the Arabs, specifically the UAE, on a path towards the space race. In fact, I think that eventually they could rival China and even the US. And we're going to explore the reasons behind that in this video. Hi, I'm Omz and welcome to OmzLaw. This news is very exciting yet not unexpected, and I really want to share it with you guys today. The probe Hope has been traveling for almost 6 months, and basically by this point it needs to use the constellations in order to navigate its way towards Mars, since GPS is basically non-existent there, and any communication between us and the probe would have anywhere between 13 to 26 minutes transmission delay due to the speed of light. As Hope approached the Red Planet this week after almost 6 months of traveling, it fired its thrusters in the opposite direction, bringing its speed down to 14,000 kilometers per hour. The Emirates Mars mission is designed to orbit Mars and study the dynamics in the Martian atmosphere on a global scale. The mission hopes, pun intended, to accomplish the following: understand climate dynamics and the global weather map through characterizing the lower atmosphere of Mars, explaining how weather changes can influence the escape of hydrogen and oxygen, and understanding the structure and variability of hydrogen and oxygen in the atmosphere. To elaborate, this probe will enhance our understanding of the weather, making it the first Martian weather satellite. It will monitor for the first time weather changes throughout the day, across the planet, and during all seasons. Simultaneously, the probe will monitor the distribution of hydrogen and oxygen in the upper portions of the Mars atmosphere, the exosphere, helping us to better understand the link between the weather changes in Mars' lower atmosphere with the loss of hydrogen and oxygen from the upper layers of the atmosphere. This, for the first time, will allow us to study the link between weather change and atmospheric loss and give us a better understanding of what happened to Mars over billions of years and how it transformed from a thick atmosphere capable of sustaining liquid water on the surface to the cold and thin atmosphere that we see today. The instruments on this probe are also very impressive, with over 60 parts having been developed inside of the UAE. Obviously, a lot of it is manufactured in other places around the world, but for an Arab country, this is nothing less than a tremendous accomplishment. Hope will study the atmosphere from an orbit of 20,000 kilometers at its closest and 43,000 kilometers at its furthest, with an orbital period of 55 hours. No other Mars spacecraft has had such an orbit. Most orbit at a single local time that allows the atmosphere to be measured at only one given time. But this probe carries a suite of 3 instruments which work together to observe specific components in the atmosphere. The Emirates Exploration Imager, or EXI, is a multi-wavelength imager capable of capturing 12 megapixel images of Mars. It can also measure the distribution of water ice and ozone in the lower atmosphere utilizing the ultraviolet bands. The Emirates Mars Infrared Spectrometer, EMIRS, observes Mars in the infrared band and measures the optical depth of dust, ice clouds, and water vapor in the atmosphere. It can also measure the surface temperature and the lower atmosphere of Mars. The third instrument is the Emirates Mars Ultraviolet Spectrometer, EMUS. It studies the upper atmosphere of Mars through the far ultraviolet wavelengths. It can also determine the concentration or distribution of carbon monoxide and oxygen in the thermosphere. EMUS also measures the distribution of oxygen and hydrogen in the exosphere of Mars. On top of all this, they're prepared to share this information with the world as part of their contribution to the scientific community. Moreover, what makes this so interesting is that the leading scientists on the team are women. It should go without saying that this mission is vital for any future prospect on Mars, whether undergone by SpaceX or any other company. And if no one is taking the Arabs seriously at this point, I seriously suggest you do. Besides being a proud people capable of maintaining the fastest growth in the last half century in terms of their infrastructure, technologies, urban planning, cities, education, tourism, to just name a few, the UAE has one advantage that all of the other companies, entities, or agencies don't have. Well, except for maybe Elon Musk, and even he needs Starlink to work and contracts from NASA in order to get to Mars. Money. And not just money, the system of power in order to make this happen. And we've all seen what the Emirates is capable of. Just look at Dubai. Now, some of you might chalk this up to hype or just early excitement, in spite of the fact that the United Emirates Space Agency, the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, and the UAE as a whole, taking themselves very seriously, they even have new programs being developed for the colonization of Mars. Then I suggest you look into their website, which I've left below, and I'm sure you'll change your mind. Sure, the country has had a few setbacks, and some projects which sounded amazing back in the day now turned out to be a complete failure. However, if I were to draw a comparison between them and SpaceX, I can honestly say that the two are extremely alike. SpaceX puts out a concept, creates hype, tests it, then changes plans if it doesn't work. The UAE uses the same approach, puts out a concept, creates hype, tests it, then changes plans if it doesn't work. So why would they be interested in getting to Mars? Well, you only need to have a basic understanding of how the UAE works and how it makes money, and it should be very obvious. Most people don't actually know this or are probably turning a blind eye to this problem, but the Earth is running out of resources fast. And no, I'm not talking about oil or natural gas, although we really need to get off these by this point. I'm talking about other elements such as phosphorus, scandium, terbium, basically elements that are used in electronics, fertilizer. The list is huge. And there's only one place that's close enough for us to mine and extract an almost unlimited amount of resources. That place is the asteroid belt. I know some of you might think this is all science fiction, but it's actually not. We are now standing at the precipice of the next gold rush, and trust me, the UAE knows this. They were ahead of the game 20 years ago, and they're ahead of the game now. Just look at how many vaccines they've handed out to their people. They're basically ahead of every country. And this is great news for us all. By having another country take part in the space race, we now have a variety of companies, entities, countries, and agencies partaking in this race, and not just certain companies that have stagnated the space race for decades. I'm talking to you, Boeing. By getting to Mars first, we will be able to expand towards the asteroid field and use the resources there in order to grow our civilization. And that's all I have for today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, if you agree that the Arabs will take part in the space race and whether or not they'll win it. I'd love to hear all of your opinions. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and check out the other content on this channel. I hope to see you next time with more topics about space. And as always, thank you for watching.